Hi, my name's Owen from Native Instruments. We're going to have a brief look through the S2, look at how the build quality's improved, some of the new features, but mainly also as well the iOS integration that's come with Traktor DJ. So if we have a look at the unit, obviously previous owners of an S2 will be very familiar with the layout, but what we have is a big improvement in the jog wheels at the moment. So they're now flight grade aluminium. The big thing being is they're now bedded on a silicon gel. Before they ran on magnets, which means what we actually had was quite a bit of resistance to when they spun. But you can see now we have spin back capability and forward capability with them as well, actually making the way that they respond much more responsive. You can see that we've also as well improved the layout and actually how the graphics are displayed within it. So if you're a previous S2 user, there won't be anything new on here and there won't be anything daunting. Obviously everyone that comes new to the market for the S2 should be fairly au fait with finding their way around. The big thing that we've brought to now is the iOS integration that comes into Traktor DJ and the DJ application that we run. Obviously, if you're an iPad or an iPhone user, you'll be used to being able to use it with normal finger gestures that you have with any Apple device. Where we've actually managed to unlock the full potential of Traktor DJ now is by bringing in iOS capability with it. So it makes it into what I would call more of a club standard, where you can go in and actually mix with it now. Before, if you were to unsync any of the two tracks, you didn't have any real-time tactile control over the BPM. However, when we run the S2 into it now allows us to do this. And what I'll do is I'll just talk you through some of the features as we can see them. So as you'd expect to find, we have a play, we have cue points that we can set in. So if I start this playing, okay, so pressing the play obviously starts the track off playing, you'd expect to see it too. If we look down onto the actual engine here, not only am I still able to set loop points via the iOS interface itself by the usual finger gestures that Traktor DJ app users will be used to, I can actually also set loop sizes from the S2 as well now. You'll see the loop size setting is given to you on the right hand side of the screen, and we're on a 4-beat loop at the moment. But if I want to change that loop setting, I can change it here as well. I can also move through the loop settings as well if I want to, and I can come out by pressing out as well. I've got a cue point button that I can go back to at the beginning, but I've also got loop setting points in here as well. You can have up to 8 stored within Traktor DJ itself. 4 of these are accessible by the S2 at the moment. So if I press number 2, I go into a loop setting. Again, I can still change the length of this loop at any time if I want to. And to come out of the loop, I just press the out button and it comes out again. If I want to set another loop setting in here, I can just press number 3. As with usual with the S2 and the S4 in Traktor, I can actually press shift and I can delete these loop points off as I want to, come out of there, and I can reset some in. If I just press it like this now, it will just go in as a cue point. You'll see when I press it as well that actually, depending on what my quantize setting is, it will wait for that length of time before it comes in again. I have it set to a quarter note at the moment, but if I want to change that at any point, I can just come down and change it all down to here. So we go from a quarter beat up to a 1 bar. And you'll see when I come out of this now and go back in, drag this back down, so when I actually press this, it will wait for a bar before it comes in again at that point there. If I set myself a loop setting, I can store that loop on there as well. These will all be stored. To access the other loop settings within it, I just need to press that flag button now. This allows me to go through and actually jump onto the other loop settings that I've got. We've got 2 effects, we've got 1 effects module, but we've got 3 effects that we can run at any one time in the iOS integration with S2 now. If I press number 1, that brings me into the effects module, and I can actually switch 3 effects on at any one time now. If I'm not using the S2, I can only switch on 1 effect at any one time. I've got a wet-dry mix for my effects here that I can turn up and down, and I can choose to switch the effects off if I want to. What's nice with this as well is I can still go back and use my finger and draw and move things around as I choose to, and then I can switch them off again from there. To come out of the effects unit, I just need to press number 1. I can come out of my loop setting and I can go back to one of my saved loops that are down here. If I hold down the shift button, I can actually scroll through and move, and I can actually zoom in and out of my waveform as well. If I come over to effects button number 2, this brings up my EQ section. As you'd expect to see with an EQ section, I've got a low, mid and a high. I can bring them back in there as well, and obviously to switch it off again. I've got a filter here. If I move this, you'll see the little filter sign comes up. I've got a low pass filter to the left, and I've got a high pass filter to the right. Also as well, The beauty of having iOS integration with the S2 now is I can actually choose to unsync a track if I want to. Before, if I pressed unsync, you remember I mentioned earlier on that I had no way of controlling any of this in real time. As we look now though, using the tempo fader, I can actually move and increase or decrease the speed as I choose to. This allows you to what I will call mix in a classical sense now, which makes the Traktor app much more club friendly and allows you to go in to use it in that setting. Equally as well, I've got real-time control over the waveform. I can stop it, I can scratch it if I want to, and I can also slow it down and speed it up. I can also adjust my beat grid setting from the S2 as well now. If I hold down the shift and sync button, I go into beat grid mode. And now if I move the jog wheel, you'll see the beat grid alignment can move around. So if I'm not 100% happy with my beat grid alignment, I can go in and I can readjust it, fine tune it at this point, and then once I'm happy with it, I can press shift and sync and I come out of it again. The power of the sync function obviously means that with this enabled, it allows you to seamlessly mix between two tracks, but also as well, as I've mentioned, the beauty being now is that if you choose to unsync them, you can come off. A nice feature as well is the Flux button that we've got incorporated onto the unit here. If I come out of this loop setting and set myself a small loop, without the Flux button switched on, if I initiate that loop, when I come out of it, it will just carry on playing from where the playhead is at the end of the loop. With Flux switched on now, if I put this on, what you'll see is a blue line starts to travel away. That's the loop that we've got set. This is where the playhead should be. If I take my finger off now, the track will jump to where the playhead position should have been. This is really useful for DJs that like to keep the phrase metering of their tracks that they're using. A good example would be, let's say you know that you've got a mix at 32 bars, you switch on the loop at 24 bars, you allow 8 bars worth of loops to run, knowing that when you come out of it with the Flux button switched on, you're still going to be at the 32nd bar and you can start to mix that point in. That's a brief run through of the S2, I hope you found it useful. Okay, so the release date for the unit is the 30th of September and the price will retail at $429. The beta version of Traktor DJ that I'm running at the moment will be available as a commercial upgrade, i.e. it will be a free firmware update for anyone that already has the Traktor DJ application over the next coming months.